The spy thriller is hurtling towards its conclusion with only 2 episodes to go, but tonight's ending seemed like the biggest shock yet to come with the death of MI6 boss George White, played by Alistair Petrie. Following a season-long battle between Max Easton, Mark Strong, and his former boss George, things finally came down to one final scene. Taking his wife and children on a high-stakes escape mission with his estranged son Harry, Joe Dempsey, in tow, Max managed to kidnap George at the last minute to finally get to the bottom of why the agency have been after him. Unaware of George's deeply problematic relationship with American counterpart the CIA, he couldn't have predicted what was to come next. In a difficult twist of fate, while Max was out of the room, the weight of George's actions became too much and he secretly ed himself. The uncomfortable scene focused on George's reaction to his final act and will inevitably change the course of the series' final installments. Actor Alistair has spoken out on his character's final moments, and what it took to get there. Speaking exclusively to Express.co.uk, he shared, "I prepared hard for it, went through the script, I learnt it very early because I didn't want to have to think about the lines, as it's a much more immersive scene when you don't have to think about it. That's why it's good to be stuck in a chair, because you don't have to think about walking and moving and talking at the same time. But what I hadn't contemplated and what took me by surprise was how emotionally I found the end moments." The Star Wars star continued, "I hadn't thought about it because I think in the script there was just a stage direction, and in the moment I suddenly thought, God. It was very emotional because the thing that popped straight into my head was that this is a man who is taking his own life and he's not ever going to see his unborn son or daughter, and that's the thing that hit me right between the eyes, and I quietly had it in my head, which kind of startled me because I hadn't even contemplated it. I hadn't thought about his so-called final moments. I thought, as an actor, that's it. That's the key to this, just use that." Alistair went on to say his final scene was a moving one regardless of the fact he knew his character was going to from the beginning, and that one of the most enjoyable things to play was George's transition in such a short space of time. George's suicide was particularly harrowing because the camera focused on the family man's expression during the final act for what seemed to be an agonizingly long time, and the scene will inevitably shock some viewers. "You don't want to get a shock for the sake of getting a shock," Alistair insisted, "but I think he does what he does and it's justified. From the nature and the setup of the scene, it's pretty darn sure it's going to be coming from Mark Strong's character Max, so, in a way it's a rather neat device to kind of muck around with an audience's head." Explaining the reasons why it was important for George's arc to end that way, he explained, "It's still got to come from somewhere truthful though, and I think after the shock I hope an audience will take something from it. I hope they'll see some humanity, not cowardice, and I think if they can cross-reference it back to this is just a family man doing what he's doing, I'd like to think he's not taking the easy way out. I'm certainly not asking anyone to think he's brave, at all. It's a bold decision," Alistair added. "But he makes a really tough decision, let's face it, to do what he does." Deep State continues Thursdays at 9 p.m. on UK. For confidential support, call the Samaritans in the UK on 116 123 or visit the local Samaritans branch.